Um, Dean, I don't suppose you're ready to kick off your presentation right now?
Yeah, hi. Yeah, I'm happy to start now if that's okay
Okay,
with
great.
everyone else.
We'll
Yeah,
just hand over the controls to you. But how are you today, Dean?
I'm all right, thanks. How are yourself?
Yeah, not too bad, thanks.
Good. Let me know if you can see my ugly mug.
Yeah, we can see that.
Yeah. Okay, so a bit of an introduction then. So who am I and why am I here? I guess everyone's thinking. So I'm Dean Underwood. I'm Director of IT Services and Operations at Sophos. Over 20 years experience across varied industries, and I think that's going to be something I'm going to touch on with regards to what I'm about to speak about. It's not just the industry you work in. So I've worked in financial services, transport, and now obviously cybersecurity. And I think sometimes we get caught in the trap of trying to force a lot of the SLAs and metrics that we've used previously on top of the new business that we go into, because that's best practice, or that's what ITIL tells us to, rather than understanding the business a bit more. And as I said, I'm very passionate around experience focused IT services. I do think we are a customer experience organization now, and that's where we're going, and that's what I've done over the last couple of roles and years within IT services. So as Scarlett said, mindset change. I'm not going to go too much into the data underneath. I've got some stats. What I'm about to show you is where we started our journey in Sophos, and I'm going to talk through the way that IT will always think about the stats, and then how actually the customers think about some of these things. So let me just talk you through some of these stats, and I'm sure those people who run in service desks are almost quaking in their seats with regards to some of these numbers. So when I first took over Sophos, and I looked at some of the data that was being produced by the service desk, it was a bit of a shock, really. Around 70% of all the tickets that came in through the service desk were coming in through unstructured emails. And obviously, because of that was the longest MTTR of all of the channels. They were only resolving 40% of the tickets at the service desk. So it was a culture of log and route, and only 2% actually came through the phone, which I'm sure a lot of people will think, well, that's normally the busiest channel, or it's the channel that gives you more access to the customers, and that was our lowest NPS. So a lot of those numbers there instantly you would start thinking about some of the things that you would do as an organization to try and change that. And so from an IT point of view, we would probably think we need the channel shift. It's not a good experience, but actually the customers were telling us it's really easy and convenient, and it was a 90% NPS on that channel. So actually we had to rethink what we were going to do there. 40%, again, when I asked why is it 40%, why is the first contact resolution not higher, I was given the standard response, well, we've got an SLA that we can't hold on to tickets more than 15 minutes, and we have to escalate for resolution. But when we spoke to the business and we looked at the feedback that was coming in, because luckily there was a good feedback system in place, the customers were saying, well, I don't really mind how long you hold the ticket for. What I wanted to know is you got to resolve it first time. So we started looking at how we can do things differently to try and ensure that that first contact is a meaningful one and gets a resolution for people. And then 2% of phone. So why the business don't want to use the telephony? They want to walk up to us. They want to speak direct to the people in the offices. That's what I was being told. But actually, they say, I don't really mind, speaking direct to IT, but it's mostly for the complex issues. We don't, we're happy just to send the fire and forget email for some of those easy things, and we just want it to be resolved. So a lot of those responses and that feedback got us thinking differently. And actually, we thought before we make any changes, we need to understand some of the journeys that our business is going on. So these are some screenshots or some images from a massive deck that we went through a process of creating. Let me just highlight with the laser pen. So this on the top left, this is the email flow that I was mentioning. So we processed the flow, we put it down in a document, we looked at it from an IT point of view. What was the MTTR? You can see there it's like nearly 24 hours. The channel, it was ranked number 2, the MPS was 9.6, but then with all the contacts. But then what we also did, we spoke to the business, and we took some stakeholders, and we actually analysed what was that journey actually like for the individual who was coming through that from the start, so the light bulb when they started thinking of it, all the way through the number of email interactions that were happening. And actually that gives a really powerful understanding of what we needed to look at and how we needed to apply the changes to some of these workflows. And at the bottom there, you can see the process as it is today, a lot more streamlined, a lot more in one swim lane. And as within this image here, you can see there's a lot less email interaction, and it's all focused on the outcome. And that's something that really struck the team, and something that I took away from my time when I was within the transport industry and working for Virgin Trains. They were very much focused on the customer outcomes and the customer journeys, and applying that mentality to IT, it gets the results that I believe we need to be thinking about now, which is that experience-based IT service. So that's the journey. Out of the back of that, we then made some changes. So what did we do? We said to the business, look, come through any channel. We're going to increase the channels you can use. We've now introducing chatbot, obviously all the standard portal. But what we started doing was we started using data to drive automation behind the channels. So yes, use email, but what we're going to do, we're going to look at technology and data of the emails that are coming in, understand the common inquiries, the common processes, and start applying automation in our space. So not impacting the customer or telling them you can't use that channel for that request, or you have to go to a portal and fill this in. It's applying technology afterwards to then funnel those channels into one common automated process through any channel. So that allows us to then get real good efficiency, to understand what's going on, to identify where the automation needs to be applied. And then we introduced something called a virtual tech bar. So all the years I've worked as a support engineer all the way through to where I am today, there's always been this challenge of people just like to walk up to this on-site IT support second, third line and try to bypass the service desk because they like to interact with people. We introduced a virtual tech bar back in January of last year. We didn't know COVID was going to hit at that point, but we were exploring the option. Obviously, COVID hit, and that virtual tech bar became a real strong channel for us to get some of the complexities of people transitioning to working from home. We now do our new joiner inductions through it, but it's 24/7. The service desk sit on that virtual tech bar, and I'll show you some of the results, but it's become a really good vehicle for us to have that face-to-face interaction with, especially our new starters. I think Annie touched on the onboarding piece, but one of the things we realize about onboarding and automation is we tend to talk about the automation of the onboarding process, but what we're not doing is looking at the birth rates and actually how many tickets that new starter is logging in the first week, month, 3 months of their career. And when we looked at it, it was staggering the amount of tickets that our new joiners were having to log because they didn't have the support on day one to actually install some things, show them where to find access, understand some of the applications that they need to do for their roles. So we now do virtual inductions with our new starters through this virtual tech bar, where we scoop up all of those tickets that probably would have been logged within the first week, first couple of days, and that's having a real positive impact on the NPS that we have, but also just on the onboarding experience for our new hires, who are, let's be honest, going through a difficult time. A lot of our, well, as I'm sure everyone else is, they're all remotely onboarding into a business. They've probably never met their colleagues yet. So, to give them that face-to-face interaction on the first day, I think is a really powerful and meaningful thing to do for them. And then the last thing is upskill the service desk. Actually, the service desk that I took over was extremely capable. They were just not given the time or the skills or the encouragement to actually hold on to some of these tickets at the service desk and to offer an experience and to try and resolve some of the tickets. Because I think sometimes we focus too much on time to resolve, time to handle, time to escalate, and I don't really focus on that with my teams. I focus on ensuring we own the issue, we apply the right level of triage, we do the due diligence, and our quality of ticket is there. I think someone asked the question last time around categorization and making sure that's right on the quality checks. That is the most important thing in all of that. But if you give your teams time and you try to guide them with as much automated information as possible in the ticket, so populate as much as you can, use the data that we have underneath to tell them what they're already looking at, then it allows them to take meaningful decisions at that space. So that's what we've done. The other bit is we've changed their mindset. So I love a bit of Dilbert, obviously, so just thought I'd put that away. So highest priority is satisfying our customers, except when it's hard or unprofitable or we're busy. So I think a lot of us can resonate to that at some points, but the team just needed to be given the support and the understanding of changing the way they think about what they do. So we've set experience as the main measure of our success. So customer satisfaction, happiness of our customers is the number one thing that we deal with. We look at that as the outcomes of the changes we make, and that's the most important thing. We focus on the journeys and the outcomes, like I just mentioned, and I showed you how we do that, and we do that across all our processes, all of our journeys. And we offer channels that the business wants, so we don't channel shift or we don't take channels away. We just give the business what they need. So especially email, that really surprised me. Someone said to me when I first started, you need to turn email off because it's a problem, it's unstructured, and it takes a long time for us to triage the initial contact. So, but actually the business didn't want us to turn it off, so we need to look at it in a different way. And I understand what makes the customer happy. It's funny, I didn't realize that Happy Signals were one of the sponsors, but I've used Happy Signals at Sophos. I've used them in my previous role, and it's a really powerful tool for me and my team to really understand what the business are experiencing from us. So I always put a bit of happiness in any conversation I put in, and these are the results we've had. So as you can see on the left, this one is still 70% unstructured, but actually at the moment we've now got 15% automation within that unstructured email channel, which is great. We are hoping to push that to 30, maybe 50% automation in the next 3 to 4 months. But what we're also doing is we're applying technology at the back end to allow us to triage these emails. So the big buzz is at the moment AI, machine learning, but where can we apply that? And we're looking to apply that to the email channel. We've now have 72% resolution rate at the service desk, so that's a 32% increase. Actually, at the moment, I checked just before I come on, it's at 75% currently this month, which is great. It's a new target for them. But all that is about shifting the capability and pushing the service desk to take ownership and to feel like they have the time to actually take time to resolve these tickets. Don't get me wrong, there's certain tickets or certain inquiries or incidents that we do not want them to be holding on to, and as long as you identify them really clearly and they push them to the right resolving group as quickly as they can, then we don't mind that. But what we do ask them to do is make sure they've tried everything within their space. And then we now have 12% within the virtual tech bar. So we replace phone with virtual tech bar. It's a Zoom bridge that my service desk sit on 24/7. People join, we facilitate the call through the Zoom bridge, and we break them out in the breakout rooms if you have more than one customer on there. And it's been a real success, and we're looking to increase that as we go forward throughout the rest of the year. So some really good results there. But what I want to show is actually, if you do focus on experience and you do look at quality metrics and the customer journey, the SLAs will look after themselves. So don't get me wrong, I'm not sitting here now talking to you saying, oh, SLAs are dead and you can't have SLAs, because let's be honest, at the moment we have an in-sourced service desk, but a lot of people deal with outsourced service desk, and you need SLAs within those contracts. But if you focus on SLAs, you don't get experience, you get SLAs and you get green, you get numbers and targets. If you focus on the experience, the SLAs will look after themselves. And I just want to point out a few, as you see, a couple of spikes throughout the graph. So June, we completed the upskilling of our service desk and the training, and that's where we saw the spike within the SLA. Actually, when I took over, the target was 90%, but they were hitting that on a regular basis. So we've upped the target now to 95. I am talking to them about upping it to 98%, but at the moment I'm allowing them to overachieve, which is good. The top right, resolve the service desk, again you can see a spike in March. Actually, what that was, when we first rolled out the service desk, we had it focused on L2, or our more senior engineers were first manning or resourcing the virtual tech bar until we were comfortable that the service desk had the capability to take that on. As soon as we transitioned that then to a 24/7 service desk channel and encouraged them to hold on to tickets, we saw a 10% spike instantly, and they've maintained that, and obviously, as you can see, it's growing and at a nice rate. We don't see it growing anywhere beyond that, because as a technical organisation, when you look at the other 30%, they are very complex technical inquiries or incidents that at this moment in time, we don't believe the service desk will have the capability of doing it. We do have a target to get them up to 90%, but we're going to need to do a more upskilling to push them forward. And then this is the one I am more proud of than anything else. It's our customer satisfaction or happiness scores. As you can see, it's been growing gradually. This little dip there, unfortunately, we had a round of transformation within the business, and we lost a couple of people through that transformation, which impacted the mood of the business. So you expect that. But one of the things I am pleased about, and we talked about, the question to you, Annie, was about the survey responses. We have over 30%, or around, on average, around 30% response rate within our surveys, which is highest I've ever seen in any business. But to have that level of response and to have a 90 score on a regular basis, it just tells me that the team are doing something right, and we're onto something with regards to the different way in which we are delivering. And then what's next, right? So the last thing for just a couple of our targets, just to call them out. So we want all tickets that are inbound into service. We're aiming to have them all triaged through AI or machine learning by the end of this financial year. It's a massive vision and a huge target that I'm setting on the team, but we do believe with the right technology we can get that level of understanding within our tickets to allow us to at least do the initial data capture and routing of those tickets. We want 30% of all of our inbound inquiries to be resolved through automation and AI. So we're looking at technology that's not just a chatbot or it's just AI. It's got some natural language understanding and can actually take action on some of the lower level tickets. We are going to introduce a concept of proactive tickets, so instance requests and proactive tickets. So I believe within IT, we know a lot of things that are going to happen because we have data that tells us what machines are out there with old versions of software or have not taken the last patch that's been pushed out or haven't restarted in 60 days. But we don't really do much about it. We just accept the fact we can see that in our data, but especially in our organisation, as you can imagine, as a security organisation, we have a lot of data that we can have access to, but we don't do much with it. So we're looking at applying proactive tickets to assets and users. So when they contact the service desk or when they go onto the portal or come through the chatbot and inquire to IT, we can give them a response to saying, hi, we noticed that you haven't restarted your laptop, for example, for 60 days. We recommend you do that before you log a ticket, or that you could be getting issues with this application because we can see it's the last version or it's 2 versions out of date, and we're going to start being a bit proactive in that space first. The aim is to actually be taking action on these proactive tickets without the customers knowing. So trying to push a 0 ticket culture. So we don't want people logging tickets in our organisation, because that means that we haven't done our proactive maintenance, or we haven't been in front of some of these things. So again, we might not ever get there, but that's what I'm driving my team to think is, how can we stop people having to come to us for support because we've already fixed it, or things don't break is the best way of doing it. But that's the aim. And then take away this culture of L1, L2, L3 and just have a service desk with capability to do as much as they need to do to deliver the outcomes that the customer requires. And I'm really passionate about that. I think we get caught up in this L1 to escalation to L2 to escalation to the SMEs, and all that's happening is there's actually an individual on the end of that, and they're waiting for support. And all we do is we concentrate on, oh, well, I'm going to pass it to you, where's that yours? And tickets bounce around. And, in my experience and using happy signals in particular to give us this information, the lowest scored tickets are always the ones that bounce the most. So I always aim to take away the requirement to pass around these inquiries and just deal with it wherever it lands. So I think that's extremely important. And a couple of takeaways, you can take them away, but 3 of the things I'm trying to get across with this presentation is just understand the customer's journey and their expectations. And if you get those right, you can then build solutions or build processes that deliver outcomes that they want. Focus on the experience, and you will get the results. So like I said, the SLAs will look after themselves and the business will be happy. And then apply the technology for the desired outcomes. I think sometimes we get caught up in, we have this technology, how do we apply it to fix an issue, rather than we have these issues, how do we go out and get the solution to that technology wise, and be bold and think differently, and try to apply, the consumer or look on whatever you deliver. And that's it from me. So a bit of a whistle-stop tour. Hopefully has been informative. I guess open up to any questions, Scarlett.
Thank you so much for that, Dean. I really loved your story. It's quite an inspirational story. It's not an easy task to transform a service in the way that you have, and I really commend you and your team and everything that you've managed to accomplish. We do have quite a few questions,
Okay.
so I'll just get straight into them. Lynn wants to know, how did you overcome poor quality of information in emails in order to automate?
Yeah, it's a great question. It's at first, it's a hell of a lot of reviewing and understanding what the common questions are. So we targeted the common top 5 requests first. But I think one of the most powerful things we did is we changed the way we responded to emails. So at first we were email back saying, thank you for your email, we will contact you within 4 hours or an hour, whatever it was. And that's just a general thing. And then you email again to ask questions, they email back. So what we did really quickly was, when my team reviewed the initial email, they took the main content out of it. So it was a Salesforce issue or an Outlook issue, and responded with a more meaningful response. So we increased our canned responses, and we then used a specific canned response for the inquiry to ask the questions that we always asked, to then start the process a little bit quicker. And then we looked at, okay, how do we add some automation into that? So how do we understand some of the content of that email to try and actually take some action? And that's where we're at now. We've improved the automation. We've also, inside of the 70%, there was a lot of emails coming from systems. So, we were getting emails out of HR, for example, always emails from other departments, which were part of the process, but we weren't doing anything clever with them. So, identify what is in a structure, what is always comes through in the same way, and then add some automation to that as well.
Okay, we have two. Yeah, hopefully.
Yeah.
We have 2 questions that are sort of similar, so I'll just give you a rundown. So Kevin says that their service desk struggles with having time to upskill staff. So they focus on shift left and upskilling, but it's not easy to balance with an increased workload. And Neville has asked, did you need to add resources to your service desk team to enable them to have time to deal with tickets properly?
Yeah, so look, let's be honest, the resourcing question is the one that we all deal with. And, I think I can give you the answer that I saw within my desk. Obviously, it might not answer the question for everybody, but I looked first at what is the workload of the desk and what's keeping them busy. And as I just mentioned there, the answer to the last one, a lot of their time was actually response through emails. So they were taking a lot of their time to actually handle tickets. I think when we looked at it, on average it was 25 minutes per ticket, and just to do the initial triage when they came in through email. So by trying to shorten that time down and target with some meaningful communications, so rather than just sending that generic, or we'd be in contact, sending something that's meaningful, we cut that time in half. And if you look at the wastage in your operations, then you will find time to free people up. But also, ultimately, we do have to right size our teams. Just understanding what is the acceptable bandwidth of an individual, and you have to build in that bandwidth with time to learn. So you have to give them support and the time to take some of these things on. And the other thing is, actually, a lot of people think that by adding steps like knowledge and training into individuals' times is going to add more time to them. But if the more efficient they become and the more they get into the process of creating and using knowledge, actually, there's a spike in use in workload. But when it's down the line, the knowledge that they create up front will then allow them to be more efficient in the months to come. So it's the hard work up front allows it to be easier going down.
Okay, sort of in a similar vein, Robert has posed a question, and it says that by removing level 1, level 2 within the service desk, how are you looking to deliver progression and development within the teams?
Yeah, it's great. It's a great question. So what we do, so L1, L2 sideways step, we now have escalations within the teams themselves. So we have people who are champions of technology. So they are the same roles, same team, but they will have areas of responsibility that, going back to the knowledge and training question, they are responsible for bringing in the knowledge, transitioning that information into the service desk, training their colleagues and ensuring that they pass that information around. But also they are there then as an escalation, and we tend to push them into technologies that they are looking to have a career into. So I have people in my service desk who want to become network engineers or want to go off into our network security groups. So they become network champions within the service desk. So we help them to grow their interest or their career path, but within the service desk, and then they go off and go into the business. Let's be honest, the service desk is almost like the entry point into IT, and it should be an up and out mentality. I don't want my team to be, or my members of my team to be hanging around for longer than maybe 1 or 2 years. I want them to be pushing to go and do more things. Yes, that brings around a challenge with regards to resourcing and filling those gaps. But if you have a mentality of pushing these people up and out into the rest of Sophos or into other organisations as engineers, then their appetite to learn and to grow allows you to then have a much more successful team.
I think that is a fantastic mentality to have.
It's all about the people, it's all about the people.
Yeah. Ian is very impressed with your 30% response rate for surveys, and he asked if you have any advice around increasing response rate.
Yeah, so a couple of things. Obviously, pick a good surveying tool and make it as easy as possible. I think we've all probably worked in transforming service desks or implementing services, and one of the questions is, what survey do you want? And every team has a different survey and they want to ask different questions, and so I'll keep it as simple as possible. Survey 100% of your tickets. Don't do the 1 in 5 or whatever it is. If it's, we just add the 1 to 10 at the bottom of our resolution email, and if they want to click on it, they can. The other thing is we focus on the passives. So a lot of people focus on the positives and the negatives and don't really look at the people in the middle. So why are they not responding? Or also, why are they sitting in the middle? So we do a lot of work in the middle, or the people who are not responding. Yes, we look at obviously the good responses and the negative responses because they're important, but my team actually contact people who haven't responded and say, just wondering why you hadn't responded at all. Is there can we just explain to you how important it is? And then they show them the deck that we do for the SMT with regards to customer satisfaction, and they just explain to them how important it is for us to ensure we're doing a good job for them, and that has allowed us to increase the response rate.
Okay, fantastic. Okay, I think we have time for one more question.
Okay.
It's a question from Neville. It's an interesting one. So he's asked, which areas or ticket types do you think AI will have the biggest benefit on?
Yeah, so for us, we are focusing on the access control stuff, but also the product we are using has got a natural language understanding that allows us to deal with adding to DLs, adding mailboxes, ownership of team channels, all of the low-level administration stuff, which is pretty much well defined. You just need to ask a few questions around and do some validation. So that's the area we're targeting. Password reset, obviously, that's a given. I think everybody has tried or is automating that now through self-service or the other, but those are the ones we're targeting the most. And software, sorry, the last one is software delivery, so that we can do the checks and do the approvals and get software delivered. We believe that the technology that we put in place, whereby it takes us a few hours, maybe a day or two, to resolve some of these tickets, we could actually get it down to maybe seconds or minutes if we get the processing right.
Okay, thank you, Dean. That's about all we have time for today. We did have a lot of questions that we didn't manage to get to. So if anyone would like to reach out to you directly, is there a best place to contact you on?
Yeah, same as Annie. LinkedIn, obviously, just explain that you picked me up from this event, because I'm sure everybody gets a lot of contacts through LinkedIn. But yeah, if you just mention you on the event and what questions you had, I'll be happy to respond and engage.
Okay, fantastic. Thank you so much, Dean. I hope you have a
No
fantastic day.
problems. Yeah, thanks, Carla. Thanks everybody for listening. Cheers. Bye.
Bye. Okay, next up we've got Abol Fruzan from the Camelot Network, and he's going to be looking at what it means to be customer-centric and shift perspective to that of customer outcomes and their experience of the firm's product